Okay, this is Serial B of the Tanker Specialization course. So you're looking at the Tanker student book, the Tanker Specialization course student book, and we're on page 21, Serial B, Operation Procedures. So if you just want to open your book on page 21, we're just going to revise what we covered in the class. So, and for anybody that missed any of it for whatever reason or another. So looking specifically at operation procedure, look, there's a number of different people who are involved can be involved in the transport chain: the consignor, the carrier, the driver, the vehicle crew, packer, filler. Now we looked at these in the initial basic course, all these different participants and how within the regulations that they can be fined and held responsible for misdemeanors or whatever or negligence in different areas along the transport chain. We're going to specifically look at, I suppose, things like the filler and the driver and so on. Now, again, because it's tanks, filler and driver, you could be considered to be the one person, or in some cases, in some of the larger depots, there, the tank or the vehicle is given to a separate person who's involved in filling. Maybe if it's a large depot and they're particularly conscious about safety and so on, that can be the case as well. But whoever is considered to be the loader or the filler has a responsibility. First of all, there is responsible for, this is down at the under loading and filling there on page 21, to make sure there's sufficient capacity for the load that you're putting in. Is there enough space for a common mistake, whether that's out at the customer premises or at a filling station or whatever. Now, a lot of the depots, we have fill protection systems now, which will detect that, but in many cases there, you have to check to make sure there's sufficient capacity for the load. Don't be contaminating the load, whether that's, dropping, things like mobile phones or glasses or pens or whatever into the load when you're looking in, maybe through a manlet or whatever, or, don't contaminate the load in any way. Earth in the vehicle. Again, a lot of systems now in place to things like the Scully system and all that provides the earth in the vehicle, but you may arrive out at maybe a customer premises or a filling station out in out in a rural area, and you might have to look about getting the vehicle there. Overload there, we mentioned the overflow protection, the Scully system, and there's a term for you, the adequate ullage space, which we'll be looking at later. That's bottom page 21. Ullage is the space at the top of the above the product that you're looking to allow for expansion of the product. Controlling the rate of filling, again, is important as well, not to be offloading too quickly. There's certain dangers with that. Precautions around fire or explosion. Trailers without braking devices, use your wheel shocks. I remember we've seen one or two wheel shocks. We'll be looking at the equipment now and again in a wee minute. And make sure orange plates and placards or labels are affixed to the container. So if you have their orange plates up when the tank container is on, then they need to be up, and then they need to be taken off when it's taken off the transport unit or the vehicle. Comply with the mixed loading and segregation. We covered mixed loading. We'll be covering it again later on, but we covered mixed loading and segregation. Segregation is keeping sort of the toxic and the infectious substances 6.1 and 6.2 away from the foodstuffs. The mixed loading is making sure that, are they allowed to be carried on the same vehicle or not. The 4.1s, which is the flammable solids, and some of the 5.2s, which are organic peroxides, the two that have explosive secondary hazards, have to be carried on their own, usually under temperature control. Okay, any special handling or loading requirements. Okay, check the tank and equipment is technically in good condition. Okay, make sure the tank date of inspection is within date. Only fill tanks that are authorized to carry dangerous substance. Again, the tank plate will tell you that. Okay, comply with the maximum degree or maximum permissible mass. So maximum degree of filling, with every product there'll be a rating on it. You can only fill the tank to a certain level. We'll look at that later on in the course. And then the maximum permissible mass, you need to make sure in terms of wheels, axles, load, the trailer load and so on, that you need to be compliant with that as well. check the leak proofness of any closing devices or opening devices, and no residue on the outside. And make sure that orange plates, whoever's responsible for loading the vehicle is responsible for putting up the orange plates and placards. Usually with tank vehicles, they're up anyway. Sure, they're up there and they're kept clean as well. Driver's responsibilities: obey the site rules, report to the responsible person. You'll see that time and time again. Be familiar with where the emergency equipment is, just in case something happens. Okay, hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll not need it, but you never know if you're having to think in a panic situation, you know. Obtain the instructions in writing, transport document and other documentation to make sure that you have them in the vehicle. They should be wearing their appropriate PPE. Remember, loading, unloading, and in the event of an accident. Securing the vehicle against accidental movement and ensuring the correct substance is loaded and the tank is suitable for the load. Okay, hoses are secured and blank caps are in place, no leakages. Make sure components are not overheating. Monitor the temperature and pressure gauges regularly. All driver, vehicle, load documentation is readily available. The vehicle running gear is functioning properly and ready for the journey. Fire extinguishers are present. We looked at the fire extinguishers. We look at them again. We looked at the initial basic and make sure they're properly secured and working. Again, these are all visual inspections that you can be doing as part of your driver safety checks. Okay, the safety equipment PPE is there. Markings, placards, and so on are all kept clean and visible. That's over on page 22 of your book. Okay, page 23, we looked at the documentation in the initial basic course. Summary here: driver documentation. You obviously need your driving license, and then you need your ADR driver training certificate. If you're driving tankers, at the back of it, then it'll specifically say what classes that you're allowed to transport in tanks and so on. Remember, means of identification, which includes a photograph of each member for each member of the vehicle crew. That's top of page 23. That's the same as what we learned in the initial basic. The vehicle documentation, you need obviously your DOE cert, your disc been shown for vehicle and trailer. And then this is the one difference now for the tank carrying vehicles. You need to have the ADR vehicle certificate of approval. Remember, it needs to be the original on international journeys. And national journeys, you can carry a copy so long as it's stamped by the company, stamped and signed off by a director. Okay. Other things that you may require: tachograph calibration cert, certified copy of the vehicle for the operator license if you're hauling goods for reward. All documentation to be carried in the vehicle and readily available. Straightforward enough. The load documentation there, page 23, by the bottom section. You need a transport document, the consignment note that we talked, or multimodal dangerous goods form will act as your transport document or consignment note. You need your instructions in writing according to ADR. Remember this sheet again that we covered in the initial basic with your 4 sections in it. Okay, or your 4 pages. Any permits, main text of any special agreements, anything like that that's out of the ordinary, so that if you are stopped by an enforcement officer, that you can easily explain to them, well, I'm carrying this because of, I have a special permit. Exemptions, approvals by the competent authority. Remember, the Health and Safety Authority, the HSA, are the competent authority for dangerous goods in Ireland. Any multilateral or bilateral agreements as well. Okay, readily available in the cab for the emergency services. Okay, the transport document itself, then bottom of page 23 over into page 24. This is stuff that we covered in the initial basic. Is generated by the consignor. So the consignor that generally, the transport document contains the information about the amount of stuff you're carrying, where you're going from, where you're going to, the journey as such, and the product that you're carrying. Usually it'll be provided either by the consignor or from the consignor to the carrier and then given to you as the driver. Okay. It has to contain the information there on the bullet points there, starting at the bottom of page 23 on to page 24. The UN number preceded by the letters UN with a proper shipping name. And there's an example given there at the top of page 24. Look, UN 1098. Okay, the class again and the packing group, you can see up there, there's the proper shipment name, LAL alcohol, and then 6.1, which is the class 3 in brackets, means that it also has a secondary hazard of class 3, flammable liquids, and then PG1 means it's packing group 1, highly dangerous, okay? And then you have your tunnel code. Remember our tunnel restriction code we covered in the initial basic course, the tunnel restriction code. Number and description of packages, the total quantity, and that in this case, if it's tanks, you'll be going with the total quantity, X amount of pots, whatever, or compartments with so on, you know. Name and address of consignor and consignee, and any declaration, any special agreement. Okay, there's a few examples there in 25 and 26. You must read and understand the transport document in advance of it. And if any issue arises, you have to basically you have to raise that with your carrier or your consignor. Okay, the carrier and consignor must retain the transport documents for a minimum of 3 months. Okay, delivery to multiple consignees. This was an exemption that we covered this as well in the initial basic. If you mark, you don't have to have the name and address of the consignee. You put delivery sale on the transport document, and that was concession made to the likes of home heating oil. If you're going out delivering home heating oil, you only know the first 3 or 4 customers in the morning, and then you might know, you know, if you're doing multiple drops like that, then you can put the words delivery sale on it because you're going to different. Okay. The words environmentally hazardous can be on as an example given there on page 24, UN number, and then the words environmentally hazardous or waste as well can also be used. That means you're transporting waste, and that comes before the proper shipment name. Okay, a few examples, 25, or just a simple example there, page 25, for a transport document. You get the different forms as well. The instructions in writing according to ADR, we would have covered that in the initial basic course. Okay, yeah, on the first page there, you have the actions in the event of an accident or emergency. That's in page 27. Page 28 and 29, you can see there you have the additional guidance and hazard characteristics, okay, which is in page 28. 29 and over into page 30. Okay, they should be carried in the vehicle, the instructions in writing as well with other documentation. And then the last page on page 30 there, you can see there it says, look, equipment for personal and general protection. So that's we'll be going through that today again as well, but that's your equipment that has to be carried in the vehicle. We would have covered that in the initial basic as well. It's equipment per transport unit, per vehicle crew, and per certain classes as well. Okay, the instructions in writing, as you know, at this stage, must be in a language that each member of the vehicle crew can understand, read and understand. And as I say, if you Google instructions in writing according to ADR, Polish, French, German, English, whatever, you easily get a PDF on the different languages. Okay, the carrier must provide the vehicle crew with instructions in writing. So to highlight that's the carrier's responsibility. At the top of page 26 where it says that the carrier must provide the vehicle crew. Okay, so that's 28, 29. There's the different. Okay, we saw the vehicle certificate of approval. Okay, that's not that slide there. We've seen the national transport only, and original copies kept for international journeys, and original certificates must be kept on for international journeys, and copies can be carried for national journeys, but they have to be stamped and signed off by the owner or a director. Okay. Do portable tanks needing for skeleton ADR vehicles of approval needs for the tractor unit and the trailer as well. So again, one needed for both. Okay. Drivers, when unloading, driver's responsibility again, report to a responsible person. This is at the top of page 31. Okay, obey the site rules. That is the same. Locate the emergency equipment. Use the appropriate PPE. Ensure the load is discharged in the correct tank with sufficient space. Make the correct connections. Secure the vehicle against accidental movement, your wheel chocks. Okay, formation of a vacuum there. That's due to like implosion due to formation of a. So if you, we were saying about controlling the rate of offload. Sometimes that can cause the implosion or the formation of a vacuum, in which sucks the tank in. If there's not enough air getting in while the product's coming off, you know. Obtain certificates from responsible person, you know, if need be. The unloader, again, just the duties of the unloader, they are highlighted in page 31. Removing the container, unloading packages, or discharging goods from a tank or vehicle. That's what an unloader is. Anybody's response. You could be considered to be the unloader as well, or it could be a separate person. Okay, make sure the correct goods, their duties, make sure the correct goods are unloaded. Check there's no damage to any or the tank or the vehicle or anything like that. Do a sort of like a visual inspection, comply with all the requirements. No dangerous, or don't leave any dangerous residues outside. Ensure any of the prescribed cleaning and decontamination of the vehicle containers carried out. Okay, and then once once the tank is unloaded or cleaned or decontaminated or purged, you can remove the markings on it. Okay, that's the orange plates or the placards if need be. Okay. Just there on the DGSA, we would have covered the DGSA and the initial basic course there, but anybody's just doing the tankers there, page 32. Any enterprise or undertaking or company involved in the transport of dangerous goods shall appoint a DGSA, okay, Dangerous Goods Safety Advisor. And their responsibility is to advise the company on and monitor the company's compliance with the regulations. A DGSA basically goes away and trains up and the whole analyzing or working with the ADR books and the ADR recommendations, and they can advise. They can do everything from classification through to advising them on general safety requirements and so on. So anybody that's involved in transporting sort of large volumes of dangerous goods should have a DGSA. You can either employ them as a contractor to sort of advise, or an advisor to advise you, or you can employ somebody full-time, maybe an employee, or even yourself, you know, the owner of the company or director of a company as well. Okay, the vehicle equipment there on page 33, we would have covered this. Okay, you have this is listed on your ADR instructions right in the card ADR, the back page of it there, you'll see you have three basically sections of safety equipment for the vehicles, for each member of the vehicle crew, and for certain classes. Okay, so if you look at it there on page 33, for each vehicle, you need a wheel chock, or if it's an Arctic unit, you need two, or a rigid and drag. You need two self-standing warning signs, which are your reflective cones, your triangles, or your flashing amber lights. And you need the eye wash bottle, okay, 500 milliliters of eye wash bottle, okay. For each member of the vehicle crew, okay, you need your high-vis vest, your warning clothing, you need your torch, your portable lighting apparatus, okay, X-rated if handling flammable liquid. That means there's no metal on the outside of it. It's like a 50p piece with a wee EX on the inside of it, and then a pair of protective gloves, okay. Number 3, additional equipment for certain classes then. So certain classes, the first one there, emergency escape mask for danger labels 2, 3, or 6, 1. So if any of the class 2, 3 is a toxic gas, 6, 1 is a toxic substance. Now it doesn't, notice the way it's phrased there for danger labels 2, 3, and 6, 1. So even if you might be carrying a flammable liquid that also has a secondary hazard 6-1, then you need an emergency escape mask. Okay, it's not necessarily just for those classes, as if the substance has any of those danger labels. You need the shovel, the drain seal, and the collection container as well. Okay, that's for class 3, 4, 1, 4, 3, class 8, and class 9. Okay, at the top there, just above that table on page 33, it's the responsibility of the carrier to supply. Okay, it's your responsibility as the driver to wear it, but it's the carrier supplies the safety equipment. Okay, the fire extinguishers then. We looked at the fire extinguishers. A wee bit at the bottom of page 33, just about the self-standing warning signs. I think it's covered in the slide coming up, but Just putting them out, would have covered this in the initial basic as well. Put them out in safe and practical. There's no recommended distance, but at least, you know, depending on whether you're coming around a hill or coming over a hill or coming around a corner or whatever. But get on the high-vis vest yourself, and get the triangles out. Not recommended to put them out on motorways. Okay. Turn over the page 34. There's your fire extinguishers. Okay, just to go through that again. Fire extinguishers basically depends on the size of the vehicle, the gross vehicle weight or the maximum mass of the vehicle. If it's less than 3.5 tons, okay, the minimum number of fire extinguishers, well, the minimum number of fire extinguishers is always 2, no matter what size of vehicle you have. You can see that in that table on page 34. Column number 2, minimum number of fire extinguishers. Minimum total capacity then for small vehicles under 3.5 ton, you need 4 kg of capacity overall. That's 4 kg of fire extinguisher across the number, the 2 or more. If your vehicle is a C1 vehicle, which is between 3.5 ton, 7.5 ton, you need 8 kg overall. And if it's greater than 7.5 ton, you need 12 kg overall. Okay. Usually it's kept in the cab is a small minimum 2 kg, can be bigger. You can have 3 kg, 4 kg, but if you have 2 kg in the cab, so if you take the first vehicle there, in the table on page 34, if it's a 3.5 ton vehicle, you need 4 kg overall, so you can put 2 kg in the cab, 2 kg maybe mounted inside the back door of the vehicle or somewhere outside. If it's a 3.5 to 7.5 ton vehicle, you're going for 8 kg overall. So you need 2 extinguishers, just go for a 2 and a 6. It's the handiest one, 2, or you can go for a 3 in the cab if you want more. 3 and a 6 would give you 9 overall, and that meets that minimum total capacity. And then if you're over 7.5 ton, you're going for 12 kg overall. Okay. So there's a couple of combinations there that you can go for. If you can go for a 3 in the cab and then a 9 kg extinguisher outside, or you could go for a 2 in the cab and then 2 6s, one at each side of the vehicle. That gives you 6 plus 6 plus 2 gives you 14, which meets that minimum requirement of 12. You have more than what's required, minimum requirement. The last column there, just in terms, if you're driving a vehicle over 3.5 ton, then one of the extinguishers needs to be at least 6 kg size. So you can't go with 2 kgs around the vehicle. They don't want you going to be small, footery fire extinguishers. Okay. And that's usually it's the dry powder is the recommended because it's the multi-purpose extinguisher, as we saw in the initial basic course. But like you can go for other agents if it's a better extinguisher with the substance that you're carrying. Okay, the fire extinguishers have to be sealed. Okay, to make sure that they haven't been used, and the next date of inspection or the maximum permissible period of use must be marked on it. Just an exemption there for class 6.2 infectious substances, you only need the 1 extinguisher or 2 kg. That's an exemption. Okay, 6.2 infectious substance. Small load exemption 2, you only need the small 2 kg in the cab. Okay, very important, you know, the fire extinguishers. They'll more likely be asked in both exams, but even when you're doing driver checks and that sort of thing, that you know what fire extinguishers you should have and so on, and make sure that you're checking the likes of the seal and making sure the date of inspection, that sort of thing. That you should be doing on a regular basis. There's your self-starting warning signs there, which is page 33. If you're booked there, just the bottom of page 33, we covered that already. Okay, then just basic safety requirements around loading and during the journey there on page 34. Okay, a lot of this stuff is repeated. Make sure you obey the site rules. Make sure the vehicle is secured and wheel chocks, either wheel chocks or braking systems. PPE should be worn during loading and unloading, and in the event of an accident. Correct type of hoses for filling and emptying. Always check the capacity of the receiving tank before you begin. No overload. Twist locks, okay, beginning loading and unloading. That's on containers systems. Make sure there's no product is left in the tank by mistake, and then make sure your overfill is working properly. Okay, so loading and unloading again, carrying on there. Closed vehicles carrying gas should not be entered by persons carrying lighting apparatus. Obviously, like, you know, although somebody says it's common sense, but common sense is something that's not very common. Combustion heaters not allowed on FL vehicles, which is the vehicles carrying the flammables. Okay, good electrical connection, which is straightforward enough. During the journey, then on page 35, secured, tank containers. Make sure that we said that already. Make sure they're with the twist locks. All valves and manlids closed and secured. No leakages from the tanks or hose, and anything they need to be capped and securely tied up. Pressure and temperature should be monitored during the journey. Safety equipment, PPE in the vehicle, and if the tractor inside fire extinguishers, usually the fire extinguishers left with the, just in case there be something would happen. Smoking is prohibited. Okay, page 35. That would be go without saying. No sources of ignition. Static charge. You need to watch for static charge. That's why they're usually have an earth in the system. And the engine must be shut off unless it's used to drive a pump or other applications. Okay, switch off the mobile phone. Mobile phone, not so much a safety thing. It's more the distraction that it causes as well is a problem usually with the mobile phones. Particularly with younger people. The vehicle should be supervised when parked. Well, not just younger people, older people as well. I find it myself. You can get very distracted with it. Alternatively, the vehicle can be parked unsupervised in secure factory depot. They're allowed to park in public areas for delivery of goods. They should be parked to remain on the driver's side. You're carrying large quantities of hazardous goods, important that you're never too far away from your vehicle. Properly secured and restrained, as we've seen with the wheel braking system or wheel shocks. The parking and supervision rules there on page 36, we would have covered them in the initial basic. If you're carrying large quantities of certain specified quantities of certain goods, for example, petrol, and something can be used usually for, or it could be valuable, or it could be used for lads up to no good, I suppose, for the want of a better way of putting it. Your first choice is always secure factory depot or premises. If that's not available, look for a vehicle park that's supervised by an attendant. If that's not available, then you're looking for a public or private vehicle park that is not likely to suffer damage from other vehicles. Okay, so that's like an unsupervised vehicle park that's not that busy. And if you can't find any of those, then you're looking for a suitable open space. So always remember that you try and work on those in that sequence. The secure factory depot or premises is your first choice. If that's not available, a vehicle park supervised by an attendant. If that's not available, a public or private vehicle park where the vehicle is not likely to suffer damage. That's like an unsupervised vehicle park. And if you can't find either of those three, then a suitable open space separated from the public highway or dwellings where the public do not normally pass. Okay, so again, away from roads, away from residential areas, that's what you're looking for there. Okay, parking wheel shocks again, brakes, wheel shocks. If visibility at night, use your parking lights. Should have safety equipment available. Don't sort of leave them in sort of laybys or open ground that is public, where the public are likely to come, and leave your fire extinguisher even in your instructions and right and left, maybe in with the fire extinguisher. Okay, route planning. When planning your route, the following basic guidelines shall be observed. Plan the route. Avoid build-up in high population areas. Again, this is a lot of you be working, sitting with a transport manager. 90% or a large percentage of journeys, you're going into areas where but if you're on international journeys and you're going into areas where you're not too sure of, then you have to do a wee bit of research. And like transport management is about route planning and that sort of thing as well, avoiding things like difficult junctions, difficult roads, low bridges, difficult terrain, that sort of thing. There might be bylaws, sensitive areas. Look at the weather forecast, in the UK and the EU, even there, Germany and France, there's a lot of restrictions on particular weekends in certain areas you can and can't go into weather forecast as well. UK regulations, tunnel regulations. We'll look at the tunnels again, but we would have covered in the initial basic. Certain tunnels you can't go into with certain hazardous goods. Okay, so you need to be careful. EU, quite a lot of restrictions at the weekends there. Okay. We looked at the high consequence dangerous goods on the initial basic as well, and there's a definition given there on page 38. You highlight that definition there of high consequence dangerous goods. Those with have the potential for misuse in a terrorist incident that can cause and as a result produce serious consequences such as mass casualties or mass destruction. So you have to put devices, equipment, arrangements in place to prevent the theft of the vehicle. So they're looking for a security plan in place, particularly if you're carrying high consequence dangerous goods. There are a few examples given on the table there on page 38. Okay, of high consequence dangerous goods. Loads more in the ADR. So what does a security plan include there? Page 38, 39. Who's responsible for what? Keeping records of the dangerous goods, reviewing your current operations, procedure for what's the procedure for reporting or dealing with security threats? You know, how often do you evaluate or test your plan? You know, is there what's physical security, like alarm systems and doors and locking systems and that sort of thing? Measure to ensure the distribution of information. Again, protecting the information about it. That's highly important as well, you know. You have your different, you know, making, you know, people aware, drivers aware of the different security risks and who do you report to and so on. All that has to be, you need to become more security conscious as such. What's the nature of the risk? You can anything from sort of hijacking the vehicle, no doubt, as far as sort of people just stealing PPE and stealing fire extinguishers and that sort of thing. Okay, so there's different types of risks. Address them, have a security plan in place, do a wee bit of planning the journey, talk to drivers that have done that journey. That's over on page 40 here now. Talk to drivers that you know that you have that have been on the journeys before, and always be security conscious when transporting dangerous goods. What do you do in breach of security? Somebody said to me, you do what you're told. You know, if you're confronted by somebody or somebody's saying report to the authorities right away. Don't confront, challenge, or pursue hijackers or thieves that you know you don't want to be risking your life. Your own life. Try to gather as much information as you can, you know, in terms of the clothes that they're wearing, in terms of the accents, you know, the type, the color of the hair, the color of the eyes, that sort of thing, you know, that's the sort of thing that you'd be. Don't try to be a hero. That brings you up to page 40. So that's the first part of B. Well, the next video will be covering the second part of B. So that completes that part of it. Okay.